Okay, so a very good evening to everyone. A very warm welcome. It's really great to have you all present with us today. This is the very first webinar of the Pro-Tem Scotland Nigerian Society of Engineers. We are in the process of getting fully registered and established, and very soon will be a full branch. I'd have you know that the Nigerian Society of Engineers actually started from the United Kingdom in 1958, when young engineers came together and decided to share ideas and go back home to establish something like this, to share knowledge across board. And it's good to know that we have lots of branches springing up now in the United Kingdom. There is the London, UK branch. There's a Manchester proposed branch as well. And we are here, the Pro-Tem Scotland, UK branch. This webinar was it's been organized basically to look at a very general topic, to have as much people as possible enjoy from the knowledge of our friend, the guest speaker, who I'll be introducing very shortly. And more so, since engineers are involved in leadership positions and leadership duties, it's very relevant to us as engineers and relevant to everyone. And even more so at a time like this, when you have the COVID-19 pandemic changing things, you need lots of adaptation in different ways, and in leadership as well. So it would be really a great time to hear about leadership in the 21st century. So I welcome you all. And by way of just to say the lineup of activities we have, I'd be, can I confirm if you can see my screen? I'm sharing the screen right now, and there's the flyer. Can everyone see the screen? No? Can I confirm if you can see my screen?
Yeah, we can see your screen, please.
Great, thanks a lot.
Yeah, okay.
Perfect. So the lineup of activities we have, basically I would go through a quick introduction of the Pro-Tem Scotland UK branch executive committee members, and thereafter I would invite the chairman to give his remarks and officially declare the event open. And then I would introduce the speaker, who would give us his talk, and I'll call on my colleague to handle the questions, answers, and comments section. And finally, we close with the announcements and vote of thanks. We'll be expecting, I think we already have with us the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, Engineer Dr. Alex Okopi Momo, FNNC, with us. And we're expecting some other council members from Korean and the NSC. And when they come in, we would have time to listen to comments from them after the speaker makes his presentation. So without further ado, I'll just list out the members of the Pro-Tem Executive Committee of the Scotland branch of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. We have as our chairman, Engineer Dr. Oluseun Adediran, who will be speaking to us very shortly in his opening remarks. And as the vice chairman, we have Engineer Muhammad Baba Shehu, MNNC. We have the General Secretary, Engineer Charles Okafo, CNG, MNNC. The Technical Secretary is Engineer Fiver Wada Wasino, CNG, MNNC. And also our Assistant Technical Secretary is Engineer Sharp Okorie Ugwo Kocha, MNNC. And the Financial Secretary is Engineer Bamikole Joshua Adeyemi. Finally, my humble self, Engineer Emmanuel Salifu, the Publicity Secretary. So I'll be handing over now to the Pro-Tem Branch Chairman, Engineer Dr. Oluseun Adediran, as he presents his opening remarks and officially declare this event open. Chairman, sir.
Are you sure? Don't use them now. I get use them. Yeah. I don't use them. I don't.
100 participants.
Background noise there. Can we just get people muted, please, as they are coming in? Good evening from Scotland here. That's not part of the UK, where the sun is always shining and where it's always rainy every time. Welcome everybody to this webinar. Thank you all for being here with us today. We are very pleased to be able to see you joining us for this webinar. And I'm pleased to see many engineers, the NSC executives, colleagues, professors, friends, and families all over the world joining us today. To my knowledge, this webinar cut across various professions as it is all about leadership. Leadership motivates to high levels of performance through strong human relations. It is an important function of management which helps maximize efficiency, helps to achieve organization's goal. Without wasting much of our time, I would like to call on Dr. Emmanuel Salivu to introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Christian Erickson. And before that, Dr. Ericsson's profile will be read to everyone so that we'll prepare our mind and understand what we are going to take out of this webinar. Thanks, everyone. And I would like to recognize the NSA executive, the executive secretary, Dr. Alex Okope, joining us now. It's a privilege to have you here, sir. Then we'll let you know when the time comes for us to share your view with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Engineer Dr. Oluseun Adediran, for that very brief remarks. And yes, I'll be reading very brief citation of our guest speaker today. He has a very long profile. I've tried to cut it a bit short for the time so that I don't speak more than the speaker. Okay, Dr. Christian Harrison is the program leader of the MSc Leadership and Management in the School of Business and Creative Industries, the University of West of Scotland in the United Kingdom. He's a visiting scholar to IFC Avignon in France, Ecoris Business School in France, AA Knowledge Kuala Lumpur, Knowledge Universe in Malaysia, ISBC Bangalore in India, and the University of Abuja in Nigeria. He graduated with a first-class degree in pharmacy and practiced as a pharmacist, assuming managerial positions before moving into the field of management. Dr. Christian Harrison has an MBA from the University of Aberdeen Business School and a PhD in leadership from the University of the West of Scotland, the United Kingdom. Christian is a well-known and recognized scholar in the field of management and leadership, and he works across the globe on several research projects. He leads the teaching of several modules on leadership delivered to undergraduates, postgraduates, MSc, MBA, and DBA students. He serves as the Director of Studies and Supervisor of several PhD and DBA students in the areas of entrepreneurial leadership, servant leadership, transformational leadership, ethical leadership, among others. Dr. Harrison also serves on several review panels and committees, including as external examiner to other UK universities like the Manchester Metropolitan University. Furthermore, he is an active member of several learned organizations. He is the chair of the Leadership and Leadership Development Special Interest Group of the British Academy of Management, BAM. He is also the founder of the African Studies track in the BAM. He is an active member of the Institute for Small Business and Entrepreneurship, ISBE, International Council for Small Business, ICSB, Center for African Research on Enterprise and Economic Development, CARID, National Institute of Food Science and Technology, NIFST. He's a senior fellow of the Higher Education Academy, SFHEA, and a certified management and business educator, CMBE, of the Chartered Association of Business Schools. Christian works extensively as a consultant, a speaker, and trainer on leadership skills development within organizations. He's the founder of the NGO, the Leadership Mold Initiative. It's an international NGO which supports students and molds future leaders. He's also the author of numerous published research papers and is the author of the best-selling book entitled Leadership Theory and Research, a critical approach to new and existing paradigms. He published this is published by the globally renowned Palgrave Macmillan Publishers. The book provides a critical insight into leadership research, emerging paradigms, and theories of new approaches to leadership. It's presented in a way that it is relevant to students at all levels, scholars, practitioners, policymakers, and other stakeholders. And I believe if you grab a copy of that book, you'd also find it very useful and handy. All right, without much ado, please join me, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome this distinguished gentleman, our guest speaker for today, Dr. Christian Harrison, as he presents the talk on the topic, Leadership in the 21st Century. Dr. Harrison.
Okay, thank you very, very much, Dr. Salifu. I was like, wow, where did you get that from? I was like, how did you get the whole biography? I think Dr. Adediran, you must have done something. By the way, thank you very much for that. And I think it's a privilege to be here today. When Dr. Adediran contacted me and told me, oh, Christian, I want you to come and do a session for us. I told him, don't worry, I will be there. And I'm so glad I'm here. I think we fixed the time a month ago. I said, okay, I was going to go on holiday, but regardless of the time, we're going to make it happen. So he said Saturday was the best day. I said, okay, no problem. So probably can reach out to Nigerians. And I'm so glad today that I'm here. I know I'm all the way from Scotland. So like something that Dr. Adediro said, it always rains in Scotland. At the moment, it's not raining. So everybody's indoors, but I think the sun is shining. But I know we have a lot of people from Nigeria, and I'm glad to see so many Nigerians today. I'm glad to see so many beautiful and handsome faces. And of course, it's a privilege to be here. So thank you for inviting me. But not to talk so much, I think the reason why I'm here today is to talk about leadership. And as you can see, I'm Nigerian. So I'm one of you. I understand everything about Nigeria. And I'm here. And the whole idea is to talk much more about leadership. And that's what I'll be doing in the next couple of minutes. So what I will do, normal rules, let's just try to website, Twitter page, Instagram. Okay, let's just try to mute ourselves so that it won't disturb the conversation, but I will try. But what I will do right now, I'll try and share my screen. Is that okay if I share my screen or with you guys, or I should just talk? Which suits you better?
Share the screen.
Okay.
I think you can go ahead and share your screen.
Share your screen, please. Thanks.
Dr. Salif, if you don't mind to.
Yes, I already stopped sharing the screen, so I think you can go.
That will be fantastic, either way.
Perfect. Thanks.
So everyone, please feel free to use the what do you call it? Not the question and answer section, the comment section, so that we can, maybe if you have questions that you want to ask, I think Dr. Salif is already doing a good job. So that will be great in that sense. So I will start the talk now. Can you all see my screen? Can you see my screen? You can see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Either way, I think the first thing, of course, is we're looking at leadership in the 21st century. Of course, something is happening in the world today, and that's the pandemic. The pandemic has changed the way people are doing things at the moment. Unfortunately, people have lost their lives. But one thing is for sure, we've realized that leadership has become so important. Leadership, if not for anything, leadership has become something that we need to know much more about, especially effective leadership. We need to know about leadership. We need to know about effective leadership. To be fair, the problems with the pandemic could have been sorted out better if we had better leaders. For me, and that's why I'm so happy, I'm looking at the Nigerian Society of Engineers. You guys make up the engineers. You guys are the cream part of the group of the engineers. And it's from you guys that we'll learn so much about leadership. At the moment, of course, you have a group and you all want to fashion the engineering group in a better way. But something is so important, regardless of the profession, leadership is at the forefront. And that's why today I'll be looking at leadership in the 21st century. Okay, let's see. So what I'll be looking at really is to look at the concept of leadership first. And of course, we need to know much more about leadership. And most importantly, the skills required in order for us to be able to survive in the 21st century. So I would try to be very interactive. I'm so happy. One of the things I asked Dr. Olusegun was more like, is it possible? Can I see the people there? I said, yes. And I'm very happy that everybody's engaging at the moment. So I would try to also get your views about it. I always like those kind of engaging sessions, and that's why I'm here. And of course, thank you very much first, because I just realized that I was the first speaker on the webinar series. So it's an honor for me to start the series, and hopefully I will be able to leave a big impression for others to follow as well. So I think Dr. Salifa has said so much about me, and I don't need to introduce myself again. I didn't know how he got all that. I'm going to introduce myself. Firstly, of course, I'm a pharmacist. So one of the things that most people don't know about me, before I even got into academia, I used to be a pharmacist, just like you guys are engineers. So I have a very strong background from the science side. I read pharmacy before I got tired of pharmacy. I was tired of making money, and I decided, okay, I didn't want to have money again, so I ran away from pharmacy. But of course, I ran into academia, and right now I'm an academic, like Dr. Salifu has already said and introduced me about in my academic background. Beyond that, I'm also an author of several books and publications. But for me, and most importantly, is my humanitarian work that I think stands out for me. And of course, I have an NGO that looks at leadership as well. And hopefully, the next time we see, there might be another box there. Who knows? But that's me for now. But what we want to know is leadership in the first place. First thing, what is leadership? Like, leadership is a characteristic of all organized groups. Everybody wants to know about leadership. Everybody needs a leader. Even in the animal kingdom, they have a leader. The leader of the animal kingdom is what? Is a lion. So leadership is so important. It's something that we all strive for. We want a leader. We want somebody that we can crave for. In the military, we have a leader. The head of the military is the general, the field marshal. There's always a leader in every fair. In religion, we have a leader. For some of us that are Christians, you might say the pastor, you might say the Pope. For some of us that are Muslims, you might say Imam, you might say Muhammad. But even in religion, you have a leader. In nations, countries, and states, we have leaders. The leader of the world, some people might say is Donald Trump. Some people might argue he's not. The leader of Scotland, of course, we know her, Nicola Sturgeon. The leader of Nigeria is who? Buhari. We always have leaders in every sphere of life. In education, we have a leader. In businesses, we have leaders as well. The chief executive, the COOs, and all that. So in every sphere of life, leadership is so, so important. But one thing is for sure, like I always say, although it's the most observed thing, we see leadership everywhere, yet it's the least understood phenomenon on earth. We crave for leadership. You type on Google. When you type leadership on Google, you see billions, over 350,000 results on leadership. Everybody's writing different things on leadership, 7 skills of leadership. How can you be a better leader? But we don't understand what leadership is. The academic tradition of leadership remains empirical nuggets. So that is why we are here today. For me, it's so important that we understand the concept of leadership. What does leadership mean? Because in order for us to survive post-pandemic, in order for us to do well in 21st century, we need to understand leadership. We need to understand the concept of leadership. So what I'll be asking all of you today is this. Using that chat box or the comment box, I'll be looking at it as well. I want you to imagine yourself in a job interview and you're asked to name someone who you regard to be a great leader. I know, of course, some of you might name different people. So just tell me one name of somebody who you think is a great leader in this century. Who do you think is a great leader? Just give me examples of people you think are great leaders. And I think I should be able to navigate it from here as well. Just a minute. Just everyone, just think about it and give me examples of people who you think are great leaders. Just put it in the comments section and I might just go through 1 or 2 of them. Okay. Can't see the section from here.
I can help.
Okay, you can help me. That would be great. So let's go. Can you just help me? Just tell me some of the people.
So I said Nelson Mandela.
Nelson Mandela. Okay. What
Angela
else?
Merkel.
Angela Merkel.
Barack Obama.
Barack Obama.
Abon Adus. Dwight Eisenhower. Winston Churchill. Richard Branson. Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali.
A father, Angela Merkel, Mahatma Gandhi,
Okay.
Dr. Mukhtar Muhammad of Malaysia,
Okay.
Godswill Akpabio. Okay.
Okay, Akpabio. Even Akpabio as well.
Ngozi Iweala.
Okay, Ngozi Iweala. Okay.
Awolowo.
Awolowo.
Namita Iweze. Mbakwe.
Okay.
Francis Madojemu. Sanusi Lamido Sanusi.
Sanusi Lamido.
Nehru Jawaharlal.
Okay.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ.
Olusegun Obasanjo.
Olusegun Obasanjo. Okay.
Prophet Muhammad,
Prophet Muhammad.
SAW,
Okay.
Awolowo, Jacinta Ardern, Robert
Okay,
Mugabe, Azikiwe, Muhammad
Azikiwe.
Buhari,
Muhammad Buhari.
Barack Obama,
Barack Obama.
Ojukwu Chukwuemeka, Tinubu.
Okay. Okay.
There's an Akpabio with a question mark here. Almighty God.
Almighty God.
Or Obasanjo.
Obasanjo.
Anyone that can allow a vision to be achieved.
Okay, we're getting there.
Arvind Kejriwal.
Okay.
Isaac Burrow.
Okay.
Okay. Ibrahim Babangida and so on. Yeah.
Okay, Ibrahim Babangida. That's good. I'm glad that everybody's interacting with that. But one of the things that you would see is that the way you perceive leadership would determine the kind of examples that you've given. If you perceive leadership to be things that involve being spiritual, or you feel like I always tell when I consult, if you think, okay, leadership is about being a servant, then you are giving examples like Jesus Christ, Muhammad. But if you think leadership is about being political, then you would have come up with other examples. Or if you think leadership is about influence, you have come up with different examples. But it's great to see all the examples that you've come up with, even Obasanjo, Akpabio, and all that. But let's see. There are many examples that we tend to see over time. You can see Aliko Dangote as well. Of course, he's the richest man in Nigeria. Most people will consider him as a leader. For some of you, I don't think anybody mentioned JF Kennedy, very popular American president that died, well known for different quotes. We also have Elon Musk, also an African from South Africa, known for what he has done with Tesla and all that. And we have people like Steve Jobs, nobody mentioned him as well, known for Apple. We have, I think some people mentioned Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, not surprising. You know her, the former Minister of Finance in Nigeria. Some of you also mentioned Barack Obama as well. That's not surprising. Of course, a lot of you mentioned Mandela. Good. Unfortunately, I don't have Olusegun Obasanjo on my screen at the moment, and I don't have Akpabio, I don't have Buhari. But these are just popular examples. We also have the likes of Ngozi, of course, Chimamanda as well, known for her work with the popular hibiscus. We have the likes of Hillary Clinton, that almost became the president of America. For some of you in Scotland, you also know Margaret Thatcher as well. The English like her, the Scottish don't really like her. But a popular figure every day, every time is Nelson Mandela. Many people view him as a leader as well. Nobody surprisingly mentioned Hitler. So that's surprising to me. I'd love to see examples like Hitler being mentioned, but nobody mentioned Hitler. Nobody mentioned any football examples. I'm not a Man U fan, but a lot of people in Scotland like Silas Ferguson as well. We also have Richard Branson, and we also have Mark Zuckerberg. These are a few examples of the kinds of leaders we tend to see, the kind of people we tend to aspire to be. But like I said before, one thing is very important. The examples that you must have given will reflect the kind of leadership or what you reflect or what you think leadership is all about. So for me, it's so important. One of the things that I really want us to get from this webinar is to be able to understand or to be able to define what leadership is, for us to agree on what leadership means. So I still want to ask you, even using that comment section as well, I want you to tell me what leadership is. What does leadership mean to you? Because that is very, very important. Because at the end, you've mentioned examples like Akpabio. Why did you choose Akpabio? I think one person tried to define leadership. What does leadership mean? Because we need to know what leadership is before we can, of course, know how to improve our leadership in the first place. So I will still be doing the same thing just in 5 minutes. I want you to just give me a small definition of leadership. I'm writing another book, and I want to be able to cite one or two of you in the book I'm writing at the moment. So just tell me, what do you think leadership is? Just give me a phrase or just one sentence of what you think leadership is.
have a good number you want to take?
Okay.
Oh,
so
okay.
just give me some. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So I'll start from.
Just give me like 6.
Okay. TechnoSpark 2 says leadership is taking someone from point A to point B.
Okay.
Mohammed Zakaria says one that inspires others to achieve goals. Deret says servanthood. Rachel says ability to influence all areas of a ward's life positively.
Okay.
Tony just says influence. This person says integrity with vision.
Okay.
Olariwa just says someone that can lead by example. Sharp says leadership is influence. IT Obong says leadership is the ability to lead others in a simple and coordinated way, carrying everyone along. Hassan Haruna says leadership is influence, empathy, charisma. Anyone that galvanizes others to achieve an objective, according to Rotimi. Okay, there's a lot, so I'll just keep going on. Developing others.
No problem. I think let's just stop.
All right.
The good thing is, I'm so happy that we're all on the same page with this. I think a lot of people are saying what I always say, so let's go there. But it's good that we are really talking about it. And there are different ways you can define leadership. And there is no wrong answer on what leadership is, really. Most of those definitions and the ones that Mano didn't say, because at the end, we in the field of leadership, we fail to agree on what leadership is. People have defined leadership in different ways. Peter Drucker says that the only definition of a leader is someone who has followers. And that is quite true to me, because you can't lead the sky. You need to lead people. You need to have people to lead in the first place. So some people believe that you need to have followers. So if you don't have followers, you're not a leader. For some people like Nothouse, they say it's a process whereby a leader influences or an individual influences others to achieve a common goal. Lucia says it's an influencing process of leaders. But one thing is for sure, and even in your definitions, I'm so happy, something comes out, and that's what? Influence. And for me, leadership is just one word, and that is influence. If you're able to influence others, then you're a leader. If you can't get somebody to do things that they will not naturally do, then you're not a leader. Leadership is about getting people, it's about influencing others. And that's why most times some people still argue that regardless of what you say, Adolf Hitler is still a leader. Adolf Hitler was one of the people that got people to do things that they would not naturally do. Got people to kill people, in quotes. Got people to wear his mustache as well. That was a great level of influence. Jesus Christ as well for the Christians, or even for Muhammad for the Muslims, showed an exceptional way of influence. So leadership is influence. So it's very important for us is that, okay, if we know that leadership is influence, then how can we learn to lead? And that's what we're trying to do today. How can we improve our leadership behavior? How do you lead? What are the skills required for you to be that form of influence? What skills do you need in the 21st century for you to be a better leader, especially in our world today? Of course, some of us are from Nigeria, some of us are from different parts of Africa. And one thing is for sure, we have seen that ineffective leadership is what's causing the country not to go the way it should go. And that's why I'm so happy that this forum or this branch is thinking of how to improve the engineers to be greater leaders. So of course, I will go very theoretical because of course I am more of a leadership scholar from the theoretical side of it. So we'll be looking at two major things. First is the behavior of leaders and of course the skills. So the first thing I'll be sharing with you is based on my understanding of leadership from the theoretical side, we have what's called leadership behaviors. And of course, we have what's called leadership skills, and they're quite distinct. So for leadership behaviors, there's a particular grid that most people might know or might not know. It's called the Blake and Morton's grid. And for that grid, leadership behaviors is divided into 5. So the first leadership behavior is what's called impoverished management. For this kind of leader, this leader has low concern for people and has low concern for production. So that is a leadership style. That's a leadership behavior. You have a very low concern for people. For you, people don't matter. And some people have a low concern for production. So that's what's called impoverished management. They don't care about people. They don't care about the task. And this is very common in places whereby people are being forced to lead. Just imagine when you have a child and your child doesn't want to be a leader, and you force your child to lead, or you force your child to be an engineer when your child doesn't want to be an engineer, or if you give your child your company and he doesn't really want to do that, he's not going to care about the job, he's not going to care about people. That's what's called impoverished management. There's another form of leadership called the country club leadership. Very common. Those kind of people, they call them the 1-9 people. Those people, they care so much about the people. They love the people. They don't want to be hated. They love to be loved. They love to do things. Oh, Emmanuel, how are you today? Do you want to come to work? Do you think work is important? Oh, you came late to work. Just go back home. You don't need to come to work. They care so much about what? The people, but they don't care about the task. That's called the country club management style. And there is, of course, the authoritarian style. In that sense, and that's what I call the 9-1, if you can see from the grid. Those people, they care so much about the production, but they don't care about people. So they care so much about doing the work. So those are the kind of people where when you work with them, they're so concerned about getting the work done. Get the work done no matter the cost. But they don't know that people matter. And that's what? 9-1. There is some that I call the 5-5. This is what I call the middle in the road management. So they're just stuck in the middle. They try to be good at both, but they end up not being good at all. So they become jack of all trades and master of none. So they try to be good at managing people, try to be good at managing production, but they end up not being good at any. And there is the final one that is called the 9-9. These are called the team managers. They tend to be good at both managing people and managing production. So at the end, they are jack of all trades and master of all. So those are the leadership behaviors that we know based on literature in quotes. But the question is, which one do you think is important? Where do you think you should be? Most of the time when I do a lot of consulting, what I do is I share the grid with them, and at the end, we try to find out where they lie, and we try to say that maybe you should be 9-9 because that is, in quotes, the best form of leadership. But of course, it's a virtual seminar and we will not be doing that. But we always try to say that it's good for us to be team managers. The team management style of leadership, where you have a high concern for people and high concern for the task, is usually the best approach to leadership. That is the ideal behavior. I would have asked you for examples of the country club management, but I will not ask you for that because I don't want slander in quotes. Because if I ask you, who do you know adopts the impoverished management leadership style, I might not want to hear the kind of answers you will give me. But either way, the truth is there are so many people that adopt that approach, and I wouldn't go too much into that. Let's just move on to the next thing because I'm mindful of time. So the major thing is, what skills do effective leaders have? And that's what's important. What kind of skills do you think these people should have? We want to survive in the 21st century. We want engineers that can lead. What are the skills? What skills are important? What skills do you require? I developed the taxonomy based on my research, and I believe there are some skills, there are skills that you all need to have in order for you to be able to be effective in the 21st century. There are skills that you need, and that's what we'll be looking at today based on my taxonomy. First, I'll be looking at the technical skill aspect. I will start from this other side. If you notice, there's one common denominator amongst all of you, and that's what? You're all engineers. It's very important in leadership that you have the technical expertise. Most leaders are usually good at what they do. So you think about great leaders in the engineering sector, maybe they were great engineers. You think of people like Steve Jobs. He was great in software engineering. He was great at making good phones and smartphones and all that. So you can't, I don't know whether you can run an engineering firm without being an engineer, but the truth is you won't do very good work in an engineering industry if you don't have an idea of what engineering is all about. So the first level you need to have is what? That technical expertise. You need to be good. And that's why some of you have PhDs. That's why all of you have engineering degrees, because you need to have that technical expertise. That skill is so important in the 21st century. You need to be good at what you do. If you're not good at what you do, you can't lead anybody. The first is that you need to at least have a basic idea of what you're good at. If you're going to lead engineers, then you need to know about engineering. And I'm sure that's why the chairman, both in Scotland and both in Nigeria, they're all engineers, because they need to have what? That technical expertise. And that is very important. Beyond technical expertise, you also need to have an idea of what? The business skill. And that is so important, because that's where we get it wrong. And it's important because at the end, most times, if you're going to be a great leader, you think, okay, it's all about knowing about the technical expertise. I'm a good engineer. No, you also need to know how to run a business as a leader. The examples you gave, some of you gave examples of business leaders. And that's why you would argue with me that most people that voted the likes of Donald Trump, one of the things that Trump was trying to sell to them is that he's a good businessman and he will run America like he runs a business. And it's so important that you're able to understand how to organize, how to manage finances, how to do some administration. Those things are important. Just imagine as an engineer, you don't have any knowledge of your finance. You can't run an engineering firm. Some accountants will just do some creative accounting on your behalf. So it's very, very important that you know about running a business. The business function skill becomes so important. Research has shown it. My taxonomy has also shown it as well. So that core skill, the technical skill component is important. But for me as well, beyond that taxonomy of technical skills, you also need to have what's called the interpersonal skill. And that's where most of our leaders tend to get it wrong. Most interpersonal skills deals with people, how to influence people. Because at the end, like we all rightly pointed out, leadership is about influence. For you to be a great leader, you need to know how to influence people. You need to know how to work with people. You need to understand people. And that's why a skill that is so important is empathy. Think of those kind of people that you've worked with. Most of the time, the reason why you don't like your managers or you don't like the people that you work with is because they don't have empathy. Empathy is very important. You should understand people's emotions. You should understand where people are coming from. If you're able to understand that, if you understand people's feelings, then you will be a great leader. And that is what some people have to know, have to learn. Some people don't know how to have empathy. Some people don't understand what empathy is. And unfortunately, it is something that is usually more science inclined, in the sense that people that are very objective or people that are very positivist in mentality. So we need to know how to be nice to others, how to be compassionate. Leaders are usually very compassionate. They usually have empathy. Also as well, communication is important. Think about it. That's a very important skill in the world today, especially during the whole pandemic. One of the things that we noticed is that most of the leaders that didn't get it right were the leaders that were not able to provide a clear language or provide a clear direction to their followers. It's so important as a leader you're able to communicate. People need to understand what you're trying to say. You need to tell people, you need to talk to people. The greatest communicators are usually the greatest leaders. The likes of Barack Obama, the likes of Bill Clinton, even the likes of Nelson Mandela, the likes of Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream. Those people are great communicators. If you want to know how to lead, you need to be able to communicate to others. But in communicating, what most people don't understand, especially our Nigerian leaders, unfortunately, that you also need to what? Listen. Listening is important. It's communication is a two-way thing. You can't just be talking and talking and talking. You also need to listen to what people have to say. And that is the problem with leaders. Leaders that don't listen are not able to cause change. So it's very important that we know that we need to be able to listen. Active listening is important in leadership. And when you listen, just imagine, oh, your son, some of you might have kids and all that, and your son told you something maybe 3 months ago. That's what I want for my birthday, Dad. I want you to buy me a water gun or something. And when his birthday comes, you provide that gun or that water gun. It means that what? I listened. The same thing in your business. Just imagine you're working for somebody and you say something and he does what you have said. You get what? You're more inclined to that person because that person has been listening. So it's so important that you listen. In leadership in the 21st century, the listening leaders are usually the ones that cause change. So listening is important. Beyond listening, being able to motivate people. Motivation is important. How can you get people to do what they would not do? In motivating people, some people motivate with extrinsic rewards. So some people will motivate with money. That's very common, and that's what most people tend to do. Oh, I'll give him some pounds or some naira, and he would work for me. It works, but sometimes that level of motivation will no longer count. People want you to show them affection. People want to be motivated beyond money. For some of us, money does not matter again. They want something else. So how can you motivate someone to do something and follow you? What kind of message can you pass and the person would really do anything for you? So that's so important. You can motivate people extrinsically or even based on intrinsic rewards. Get them to do things. And the greatest form of motivation is role modeling. If people see that what you do is, or what you say is what you do, people will do things for you. Just imagine you tell everyone or you tell people, okay, get to work early, and you don't come to work early. People will not be motivated. If you tell the country, oh, there is a lockdown, all of you stay inside, and the president refuses to stay inside, as we have seen in some of the countries, what happens? They will not be motivated. If the minister is saying, wear the mask, and he is not wearing the mask, they won't be motivated. But when you say something and you do what you say, people will do anything for you. And that is so important. We need to know in the 21st century, post-pandemic, post-COVID, motivation is very important. But beyond motivation, we also need to know how to build a team. One thing about leadership is it's not just one person. And that's why for all of you that define leadership, you also need people. You have to influence others. So for any leader knows that they can't do it on their own. They need people. So you need to be able to build a team. I'm so happy with the NSE. I like the way Emmanuel read the group. So it's not just the chairman doing it. He has a group of people. Why do you think you're all working together? Because only one person can't get 150 people for this webinar. Everybody's working together as a team. That is leadership. Leadership involves team building. It involves creating a team in your own image. Whether it's positive or negative, you need to build a team. Also, beyond building a team, you also need to manage those people. People management is very important. You have a team of people, and if you can't manage them, then you can't move forward. You have a team, how can you manage them? And that's why most countries, most businesses, they start developing the people. Everyone is different. So what works for A will not work for B. What works for Engineer Mohammed will not work for Dr. Oluseun, or will not work for Emmanuel Salifo. So how can I know how to manage all these people? What's the best way to manage them? Leaders know how to do this. They know what works for each person. They don't treat everybody the same. Like the common book by the Animal Farm, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than the others. So you need to know how to treat people in different ways, not being partial, but also knowing how to manage different egos and different groups of people. Any leader that knows how to manage people's egos, manage different groups of people, develop them as well, then you will be a great leader. For me, and most importantly, is being able to manage yourself. You can't manage people if you don't know how to manage yourself. So great leaders are very self-aware. They understand themselves very well. They're the greatest critique of themselves because they know that, okay, if I'm going to be a great leader, I need to know my weaknesses. If you don't know your weaknesses, then how can you be a better person? In leadership, you can't know everything. So you need to know your strengths, your weaknesses. If I'm bad at managing people, I need to become a better team manager. If I'm bad at accounting, maybe I need an accountant. So you need to know your strengths and weaknesses because that will determine the team you build around you. So self-management is very important. You need to understand yourself. And that's why they say most leaders, they sleep for 4 or 5 hours. At least we have known it based on statistics that they don't sleep long because they understand what they need in order for them to move forward. You can't manage people if you can't manage yourself. Leaders are disciplined. They know they manage their time well. if it was a more interactive section, I would have been asking all of you, how many hours do you sleep in a day? But I won't be asking that because I can't even see the screen. But either way, it's so important that you know how to manage yourself. Great leaders, effective leaders are very good in managing themselves. So finally, I think I still have 2 more skill categories. I also believe, based on my taxonomy, that another great skill set is conceptual skills. This means leaders that understand complex situations. This is very important in leadership. For most of you already, you already have the analytical skill. Engineers are created to be analytical. I have to doff my heart for you guys. You guys know how to do analysis. You're good at it. You know how to be meticulous with figures and numbers, but not everybody is good at this. And most leaders need to know how to be analytical. You need to be very objective and not subjective. So it's quite good. And that's a skill that is so important. You need to understand, you need to be able to analyze. Analysis is so important in leadership. But one of the things beyond analysis is idea generation. Look at the leaders that you know. Any leader in every fair is somebody that can generate ideas. If you can't generate ideas, then it will be hard for you to succeed. Look at the great businesses that have flourished in the world today, the likes of Facebook, the likes of Amazon. It was an idea that was generated. If you want to be rich, in quotes, if you want to be a great leader, both in business, both in technology, you need to generate an idea. A good idea. It might not even be a novel idea, but an innovation. Being innovative is very important. Great leaders, effective leaders are usually good at generating ideas. They might not even generate the ideas on their own. Like Steve Jobs has been criticized many times for being a thief. So these people, they tend to steal other people's ideas, whether you generate it on your own or whether you steal someone's idea, but they're usually good at generating ideas, and that's important. Beyond generating ideas, leaders are also good at problem solving. Problem solving is very, very important. Every leader is looking, every follower wants somebody that can solve his or her problem. And that's why we crave for leadership. Indirectly, we are looking for change agents, we are looking for problem solvers. So every leader must know how to solve problems. Think about it. The common problem in the world today at the moment is what? COVID-19. Any scientist, any engineer that comes up with that vaccine, what will happen to that person? That person will be the greatest leader in technology or healthcare today. That is a problem solved. If you want to be a leader in your field, you need to be able to solve that problem that people are experiencing. If you want to be a great business leader, you want to be a political leader, you need to solve that problem. The only reason why, for us in the UK, the only reason why Boris Johnson was able to become prime minister, because the problem was Brexit. And he was the only person that had the clear message to solve that problem. So if there is a problem and you identify that problem and you're able to solve that problem, then you will be an effective leader. So problem solving is so important. Beyond problem solving, it's also important in leadership that you're able to what? Envision. Every leader must have a vision. That is a very important skill. I will not follow you if I don't know where we are going to. For some of you, think about it. For some of you that are married or you have a girlfriend, the first thing you propose to your wife is, if you marry me, I will do this. If you marry me, we'll have kids. I will change your life. We'll go to Venice. We'll go to Paris. You sell something, you're selling a message. And that's what? Selling a vision. Most leaders have to have a vision. You need to have a clear picture of where you're going to. If you're a political leader, you need to have a vision of where the country is going to be. If you are Buhari, you need to be able to say, yes, this is how I want Nigeria to be in 2024 or in 2023. This is my vision for Nigeria. This is how I think Nigeria will be. If you are in a business, this is how I think the business is going to look like. So you need to have a vision. You need to have a clear picture of the future, because if you don't have a vision, then you're not aspiring for anything. So vision is very important. Being able to envision and tell people where or the direction that they should be going to. So visioning or envisioning to me is a very critical skill. Then even when you have a vision, it's so important that you're able to what? To plan. And planning is key. Because the truth is, most people have a vision, then they don't know how to get there. So if you have a vision and you don't plan, you become a daydreamer. You just have a dream. I have a dream by Martin Luther, but how will I get there? So you need to be able to plan. Okay, this is my dream for Nigeria. This is my dream for NSE in the next 5 years. That is my dream. That is the future. But how are we going to accomplish that dream? What are the things in place in order for us to meet the things that we are dreaming about? So every leader must be able to plan. So strategic planning is so important. If people don't see that footprint, or if you don't create a foot map of where you're going to be in the next couple of years, then people won't follow you. You're only going to fail. Like I always say, if you don't prepare, of course, you're going to fail clearly. So it's so important that you're able to plan. So planning is key. You have a vision, but beyond having that vision, you need to have that strategic planning skill in order for you to accomplish that vision. And finally, you need to be able to make decisions. Leadership is about being decisive. Unfortunately, if you want to excel in the 21st century, you can't be chicken-hearted. You need to be decisive. You need to make strong decisions. And that's why it's very difficult not everyone can be a leader. Although, of course, it's beyond the scope of this webinar. There are different forms of leadership. Some people argue that some people are born leaders, some people are not born leaders. Maybe I might get those kind of questions in the Q&A. But the truth is, you need to be very decisive. You need to be able to make tough and firm decisions. Imagine when you're a leader, you're having a crisis. So just let's take the pandemic, for example. And there was a crisis in the pandemic. And rather than the leader making decisions, the leader is the one panicking. The leader is the one crying and saying, oh, Engineer Mohammed, what should we do? I don't know what to do. What do you think the followers would think of that kind of person? They would think the person doesn't know what he or she is doing. So leaders have to make decisions. You need to make decisions, whether wrong or whether good. You need to be able to make them and take responsibility for those decisions. It's not about making quick decisions, but making the right decisions most of the time. But you need to be decisive. Leaders need to make decisions. So if you are afraid of making decisions, then you might question your ability to lead. And that's so important. So it's good for you to have interpersonal skills. It's good for you to have technical skills. It's good for you to have conceptual skills. But for me, one of the things that my area of expertise has shown over time is that you also need to be entrepreneurial. And for me, in the 21st century, this set of skills are very important, if not the most important. Entrepreneurial skills are key in order for us to move beyond where we are today. And it involves 3 skills. For me, it's recognizing the opportunity, and that's what I call opportunity identification. Every leader should be able to identify an opportunity. And that is it. Because right now, think about it. If you are a business leader or you want to be great in business, what's happening? People are wearing face masks. Okay, so what do? Some people are producing more, some people are getting rich in the pandemic, unfortunately. People are losing jobs, while people are creating jobs. Leaders know how to identify opportunities. So some people are mourning and saying, oh, something is happening to me at the moment, but some people are identifying an opportunity and they're now exploiting those opportunities. In the 21st century, unfortunately, the government is not going to take care of everyone. It's going to be impossible. You see, after the pandemic, we're going to go into a level of recession that we have not gone into before. So the leaders in the world today will need to know how to identify opportunities and also know how to exploit those opportunities. Because sometimes those opportunities are not new, but it's those that are able to exploit those opportunities that will do well in today's world. And for me, finally, you also need to know how to manage risk. I'm not saying as a leader, you need to go and gamble or do some, here we call it William Hill, and go and do some gambling. No, leaders, they have to take risk. They're not risk averse. You need to take risk. That's how life is. Like now, the truth is, even if you look at the pandemic right now, different governments are opening the economy. They know there's a risk, but they're ready to take it. So every leader must know how to take risk. But what I call it, you have to be able to manage risk. And that's what I call calculated risk. Leaders need to take risk, but you have to evaluate the risk before you take it. And I think that's one of the things that engineers tend to do quite well.
Yes.
You're very good at evaluating risk, and that's so important. So for me, these are the 4 skills that are required in today's world, in the 21st century, in order for you to do well. But of course, is it possible for everyone to have all these skills in that level of competence? I might argue that it might be impossible for you to have every one of them at that level. But what I want you to do before we round up in the next couple of minutes, I want you to look at those skills that I've highlighted initially. And I want you to just tell me I think Emmanuel will be helping me again, which skill do you think is the most important? Which skill do you think is the most important? I think, just think about it. Which skill, out of all which skill do you think is the most important? As an engineer, because that's where we are looking at. I'm looking at you guys based on your engineering background. Which skill, out of all these I've mentioned, which skill do you think is the most important to be a leader in 21st century in your sector? Which of them do you think is the most important?
Okay, someone's coming here. Gazier says problem solving skill.
Problem solving, okay.
Technical skill, innovative skills, interpersonal. Good judgment, technical, interpersonal,
okay.
listening,
technical,
interpersonal, and communication, effective communication, self-management skills.
Okay.
We all need it.
Okay.
Yeah.
For me, the answer is all of them are important. I won't be critical because I have my bias already, because I do a lot of entrepreneurial leadership studies. So I always say entrepreneurial skills are very important. You can see from my bias already. But all are needed. But for me, it's not about what is needed. It's about reflecting. And that's one of the things that we're meant to get from this webinar. Which of those skills do you think you're lacking at the moment? Reflect on yourselves, really, and think about it. Okay, Christian has mentioned all these skills. Out of all these skills, I know they're all important, or not almost all important to me, but which one do you think that you're lacking? So think about it. Which one do you think that you're lacking? Reflect on it. Which one do you think that you're lacking? But I won't ask you to put that on the chart, but it's one of the things that you need to reflect. Out of all those skills that has been mentioned today, which one do you think you're lacking? Because at the end, the whole idea is for you not just to know the skills, but also for you to be able to have a I told you from the beginning, leaders are what? The greatest critique of themselves. So if these are the skills required, all right, what are these? Which ones do I think I don't have? And most importantly, if you've highlighted it, I won't tell you to put it on the comment section. The next question is, how can I develop those skills? What are the things I need to do in order for us to develop the skills in order for you to be a leader? And I'll be highlighting just 4 of them before we close. The first is mentoring. Mentoring is key. I've listed all those skills required in order for you to be a 21st century effective leader. But how can you do them, or how can you develop them if you don't have mentors? So that's the first way. In mentoring, you have formal mentors and informal mentors. For some organizations, it might happen in your organization. When you start your role, you are assigned a mentor and you have programs, or you have some chats with the person, and you draw up a plan and you learn about what it entails. So there is a formal mentoring process, and the person teaches you and you learn from the person. You're the person's protege and the person is your mentor. That's a formal process. That is very good because you tend to learn how things are done, how things should be done. And it's also very good in what? In a succession plan as well, because leaders have to think of succession. So if you want, just imagine you're the president or you're the chairperson, and you know that in 5 or 6 years' time, you're going to hand over to somebody. What do? You get that person to be a mentee, and the person learns from you. So that is a formal mentoring process. It's a very good way of developing the leadership skill set. But another good one is an informal mentoring process, where the person doesn't even know that you're being mentored by the person. You identify the person. And that's why most people say, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Okay, I want to be Aliko Dangote, in quotes. Not as if you want to be him, but you want to be the richest man in Nigeria. What do? You go and find out what he has done to get to where he is. And you read and find out, okay, and you start to see what are the things he has done, how did he get to where he is. I want to become maybe a professor or something. I want to become the vice chancellor of a university in Nigeria. What are those things that are required? You start to follow the whole process and you learn how to get there. So that is an informal mentoring process, whereby the person doesn't even know that you are really learning from the person, but you're also improving yourself. So mentoring is so important. And that is a good way of developing that skill set that you might not have. Leadership training programs are also very important. Today, of course, is one of them, a webinar on leadership, but it takes several forms. There are some that could be a university program, an MSc, or that I deal with as well. It could be an MBA, it could be a DBA. For some of you, it might also be a training program that your company tends to do. Most good companies, they run leadership sessions. Like I do a lot of them for companies and universities as well, whereby we have a structured leadership workshop where I give you my construct, or maybe my empirical leadership or my entrepreneurial leadership construct, you feel it, and you are able to develop your leadership skill competence as well. So that is very good. Most of the time, if you believe, okay, I want to be a transformational leader, what do? You go on workshops that deal with transformational leadership. I want to be a servant leader. You learn about servant leadership. So these are the kind of things. Leadership training programs are very useful. I know, of course, most of you already are all engineers. Some of you might have PhDs and so on. But for some of you, it might be important for you to do run some workshops or have some short workshops on leadership, or on skills on leadership. Those things will help develop your leadership ability as well. So beyond those two, you also have what I call the personal growth activities. And that for me is very, very key. If you want to be a great leader, then you need to read about leadership, read biographies on leadership, read books on leadership. I have one already on leadership. So there are many books on leadership that will teach you much more about leadership, teach you about how to develop that leadership skill set, teach you on how to become a better leader. Right now, we have so many TED Talks on leadership. You have the YouTube forum or helps as well. So you can watch various programs on leadership. This will help make you to learn much more, teach you about empathy, teach you about self-management. Books on this are very useful. But of course, it's so important first that you know exactly the skill that you want to develop. And finally, for me, practice. Practice, practice, practice. Practice makes perfect. If you want to learn how to write, what do? You write. If you want to learn how to speak, what do? You speak. Don't be afraid to fail as a leader. Leaders are any leader that doesn't fail, then you're not a leader at all. So fail, you have to fail to learn. In that sense, so you have to what? Practice. If you want to know how to communicate, what? You communicate. It's all about doing it. Don't be afraid to do it. You have to fake leadership, in quotes. Learn to be a leader. Go out, talk, be more confident, take the risk, manage the risk, speak more confidently, listen to others. Practice is what will make you a better leader. If you don't practice leadership, if you don't practice those skills, then you would not be a great leader. And that is it for me. Finally, I think for me, there are two questions everyone who aspires to be an effective leader should ask themselves. First, does it matter how you behave as a leader? Yes. Do I need to develop my leadership skills? Yes. Those two things are very important. As a leader, you need to behave like a leader, like we looked at those forms of leadership behavior. And of course, you also need to be able to develop your leadership skill set. If you're able to do this, then of course, you will be a great leader in the 21st century. And for me, what I'm so passionate about is being able to change Nigeria as well. And I think that's why we're all here today. If we can get those skills, I think especially for many of us in diaspora and even for those in Nigeria as well, these skills will be able to make us better Nigerians, and of course, the world will be a better place. Thank you very much. So please feel free to ask me questions as well.
I was going to just clap my hands on behalf of everyone for you now. Thank you so much for this vibrant, engaging, interactive, filled with information and education of all kinds. Very academic, very practical. Thank you so much, Dr. Harrison, for this wonderful talk. I won't be wasting time because there's so much in the chat that we're going to have to take in terms of questions. And I'm sure several other people have their hands up to make comments and make inputs as well. But before then, I want to just recognize the presence of people who have joined us during the talk. At the last check, we have 125 people here right now. Wow. And this has been a very heated and engaging session. I'll have us know, as we said earlier, we already have Engineer Dr. Alex Okopi Momo, FNC, the Executive Secretary of the NSC in our midst. And we also have Engineer Rose Madaki, the Chairperson of the Standard and Codes Committee of NSC. She's also here. We have Dr. Obooks, who's the Chairman of the proposed Manchester branch, and Dr. Sunday Popola, the Chairman of the London branch, also here. I'll be giving a minute each to these persons if you want to say something briefly. The floor is open right now. Engineer Dr. Alex Okopi, if you would want to unmute yourself and just maybe have some comments if you want to.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really want to express my sincere gratitude on behalf of the President of NSC to the Scotland branch. I would say categorically Scotland branch, because I know the formality will soon be over.
Yes.
This is one.
Thank you.
One lecture that is so desirable to me. It's one lecture that we need to key in and actually, if like, sustainably develop. What it means again is that we need to take to engineering leadership in Nigeria for sustainable economic development of this great nation. So much is left undone, and this is because Nigerian engineers have not taken up engineering leadership in the country. Over 90%, I can categorically assert, 90% of the economic and social problems of this country are engineering related. The nation is waiting for engineers to solve our problems. So what are we waiting for? We need to take engineering leadership in this country. We need to be in the forefront of the advocacies for sustainable development. We need to begin to showcase engineering capacities that are available in this country. We need to do a whole lot. So this lecture is very timely, it is very essential, and even more so in the development and management of our branches. Very soon, West Scotland and Manchester branches come on stream. We will now be having 4 branches in diaspora, and this is very key for us. Now, NSC can boast close to, about 80 branches across the country. And with 26 professional disciplines under NSC, there is so much to be done. Our divisions need quality leadership. Our branches need quality leadership. The National Engineering Secretariat needs quality leadership. So everything that makes a difference is leadership. And that is why I want to most sincerely appreciate Dr. Harrison for this very, very important lecture. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Engineer Dr. Alex Okofi. That's a very fundamental points you've raised there, and they've been noted. part of the idea of having this talk at this stage in this area, something that is away from the technical engineering, is so that we can begin to develop these areas, because engineers already know the technical things from the schools, from training and skills and things like that. But the other parts of the skills are where we are lacking. And that's what engineer Dr. Alex Okopi has highlighted very seriously. And we need to begin to take leadership in these areas to begin to influence and cause change in Nigeria as we want. I would also want to call on Dr. Obuks, Dr. Sunday Popola, about Dr. Obuks, if you have just 1 minute, possibly 30 seconds to make a comment if you want to. Dr. Obuks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel, for that. I think on behalf of Manchester Protem NSC branch, I just want to say big congratulations to the colleagues in Scotland for taking off so beautifully. And also thank the speaker, who would not have known is a Nigerian if you just look at his name, you know. So it's good to be able to know you today, Harrison. So thank you so much for this wonderful talk. Maybe I might just add, maybe if you can maybe comment after Popola speaks, you know. So to what extent do you think our curriculum is lacking in terms of infusing some of the leadership conversation that you just narrated into the engineering curriculum? If you can comment on that before you close. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Dr. Books. Dr. Harrison, if you can just note that, would come to responding to the questions shortly.
Thank you very much, Dr. Books, for that. Clearly, I think it's something that I think Emmanuel said.
I think you maybe we'll just note it so you can answer it later.
Okay, I can note it. Okay, I can note it. Okay, I'll try and note it. Okay,
so we just got, yeah. I'd like to call on Dr. Sunday Popola, if you'd want to just have some comments for 30 seconds to 1 minute, if you would. Dr. Sunday Popola. Okay, it's probably right. Maybe it's not online. Okay. So before I hand over to my colleague, Engineer Sharp, who would handle the question and answer sessions, I just want to answer quickly a couple of concerns that were raised. Someone was asking if this is going to be available on YouTube. I think we're streaming live on YouTube and on Facebook, so this should be available after now for people to view and listen to. And secondly, about certificates, yes, this will be given to those who register and participate. There'll be certificates for this session and there'll be certificates for the entire webinar series because there'll be more sessions coming up subsequently. So now I hand over to my colleague, Engineer Sharp, to take the questions and answers and interact with the interaction with the guest speaker. Engineer Sharp.
Thank you, Emmanuel, and thank you, Dr. Harrison. It's been a very interactive session.
Engineer Sharp, we have Engineer Rose Madaki on the forum. Can we, I think we mentioned Engineer Rose Madaki name.
Yeah,
if you don't mind, can you let?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Engineer Rose Madaki is the chairperson, Standards and Codes Committee of the NSC, and she's a director with the Standard Organization of Nigeria. My apologies, please, Ma, if you would want to say a word. 30 minutes to 30 seconds to 1 minute, please. Thanks.
Good evening, all, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity. I think my executive secretary has spoken my mind, and I want to stay at that. And I want to say a big thank you to the speaker, that today you have given us a free lecture, and my popular declaration is I desire to be a team player. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
I'll ask the question later. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's so brief and very, very, very down to the point. Thank you very much. Okay, Engineer Sharp.
Good evening, everyone. Once again, special thanks to all the dignitaries. Once again, just to join my salutes to you, and then to also appreciate the guest speaker, Dr. Christian Harrison. So thank you very much. Now I've got about, right away, I've got 3 questions, and then we had one during the vote of thanks. And then I have about 2 or 3 other names that you have put up their hands to ask questions. So the 3 questions, sorry, the 3 questions, we take them, I would like us to go 3 questions at a time. So if Dr. Harrison can note these questions. Okay. Question from Engineer Kenna. He's asking, where is motivation needed most and why? Where is motivation needed most and why? And then the second question was, what do you say about timing and techniques that could be used by leaders? Timing and techniques that could be used by leaders. And then the third question in this batch of questions, someone, IK is asking, how can a leader overcome micromanaging people? How can a leader overcome micromanaging people? I'll let our guest speaker to answer those three questions first, and then we remember there's a fourth one on how the curriculum is impacting leadership. So
I think the first question, thanks Dr. Sharp for that. So maybe you might help me because I'm trying to take note as well. So the first is, where is motivation needed most and why? Isn't it? That's the first question.
That's correct.
So first question, where is motivation needed most and why? I think one of the things that we already know about leadership, and leadership is about influence. And if leadership is about influence, it's about trying to motivate people, trying to influence people. So you need motivation when you're working with people. That is the truth. If you don't work with people, you just imagine you're working in a lab. You don't need to learn how to motivate anybody because you're not working with people. But when you work with a group of people, it's so important that you know how to motivate them. Because at the end, if you're not able to motivate them, they will not work for you. So if you want people to work for you, if you want people to be able to do things that they won't do for you, that's why sometimes you see, why are these people doing this? People are not being paid to do anything. They're happy to work because they like you. Because there's something about you. Some people might say it's charisma, but there's something about you that they really like. And they will do anything for you. In that sphere of things, in that area, then it's so important that you learn how to motivate people. So the answer is, any place you deal with people, that is where motivation is important. So it automatically is almost everywhere. You need to know how to motivate people if you want to be a great leader.
Then the second one is, what do you say about timing and techniques?
Okay, timing, what I say about timing and techniques
that could be used by leaders.
Okay, so for timing is so important. So if there are two ways you can look at the timing. First, the leader himself, and of course the other people. Every leader must be able to be a good time manager. This was what we call in self-management, what we call time management as well. So it's very important that you're able to manage your time as a leader. So that is one of the most important things. Like I said before, just imagine if you're a leader or you want to be a leader in quotes, and you sleep for like 12 hours a day. What does that mean? It means that you've wasted half of your life already. So any leader, and if you want to be a great person, you need to know how to manage your own time. Then not just knowing how to manage your own time, also knowing how to manage people's time as well. And that's why I go back to say that everybody is different. So you need to know how to manage people's time. Okay, how can what kind of time is required for this person? What kind of time is required for this role? So most times you're able to break the role based on the time as well. So it's so important you're able to manage your time and you're able to manage other people's time. Looking at the technique question, it's quite broad because of every leader should have different techniques. And the techniques you use will depend on the situation. There's what we call in leadership theory, there's what we call contingency theory, in the sense that there is no bad leader. It all depends on the situation. So the style of leadership you adopt would depend on the situation that you're in. Sometimes it might be good for you to tell people what to do. So just imagine in a situation whereby people are not going to listen to you no matter what you do, then it might be good for you to tell them this is how you have to do it. But sometimes it might be good for you to get everybody and push them to do what they want to do. So although I'm saying that all these skills are required, you need to know the time to use any of them. So the skills you use is also dependent on the situation that you are in as well. So being able to manage your time, managing other people's time, and the technique that you use is based on the situation that you're in.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's well answered. And then the third question was talking about how to overcome micromanaging people?
Oh, I like that question really, because that is one of the problems of many leaders. I think that might be a problem with, to be fair, to engineers, because you guys are too smart, isn't it? You guys know everything. So the problem is, so some people, and that's the problem with different leaders. Some people, they think they know too much, and when they know a lot, they don't believe that anybody can do it without them being there. So even small little things, they want to be involved in everything. They want to cherry pick. They want to tell you, go and do this, go and do that. They don't delegate. And that is wrong. As a leader, you need to get away from being a micromanager. It's hard sometimes, but you need to be able to trust people to do things even when you're not there. It's a form of leadership that we call distributed leadership. That means you delegate. People will be better leaders if you give them roles to do and you don't micromanage them. So we have to get away from that micromanagement. Sometimes it might work, to be fair, it might work for some people, but at the end, it doesn't work every time. So you need to be able to know, let's give this person the chance to do what they will do. Give them that opportunity and see what they will do with it. And most of the time, when you do this and you stay from afar, then you will see how people will excel. If you have to be there every time to get things done, then you're not a leader. Every leader has to be able to replicate him or herself. You will know that you're a leader when you leave and go for a holiday in Venice and things don't get wrecked. But if you're a micromanager, if you're not there, things are always going to be bad. So leaders are the ones that are able to replicate themselves. You're able to replicate yourself in other people. And you can only do that if you don't micromanage people. You need to get away from that It might be difficult. I won't deny it. Could be a difficult thing, but the only way you can do it, give people freedom, give them autonomy. People like that freedom. And it's also a very good way of motivating people. People will be motivated if you give them the opportunity and independence to do what they will do. And when they make a mistake, what do? You correct them and tell them, okay, you didn't get it right, Sharp, or you didn't get it right, Dr. Oluseun. Just tell them and they will learn from their mistakes. There's a very good story I always tell most people. There was a particular person, he was in a company. What he did is he just started recently and he had a great loss. So he gambled like stock exchange or something. So he made a mistake and the company lost so much money. What did the leader do, or the manager? He called him. The guy had already written a letter and he was going to resign. So what he told the guy, like, okay, sir, before you sack me, please just give me the opportunity to resign. I know I've caused this company so much. I want to resign because I know if you sack me, I won't get a job. I said, who told you I wanted to sack you? No, that is a learning curve. So I'm not sacking you. For me, you've just learned. And the guy was so surprised. He thought he was going to be sacked. But what happened to that person? For that person, the way he viewed that person was quite different. Till the end of his career, he respected that leader. And for him, it was clear that, okay, it means that we are allowed to make mistakes. And he never made that mistake again because he learned from his mistake. And that is what leaders should do. Leaders should be able to correct people. If you say you believe in your people, if you say the people are the most important things in life, then you should be empathetic towards them. It's not about micromanagement. It's about giving people that freedom. And we should learn that. And it's so, so important.
Thanks a lot. I'll just cut in briefly, Engineer Sharp, sorry. Thanks so much, the guest speaker, for the response. Dr. Sunday Popola is now here. And I think, yeah, you have 30 seconds to 1 minute to just make some comments. Dr. Sunday Popola is
right. Thank you very much. Wonderful presentation, Dr. Harrison. I really enjoyed that. Being a leader is a tough thing to do. But I don't know whether you've mentioned it. As a leader, I set myself what we call a SMART goals. And I get everybody around me to do the same thing. And when I say SMART, I mean S for simple, M, it must be measurable, A for achievement, R,
achievable,
extremely realistic, and T to be time-based. So if you could work around those 5 goals, you will never fail as a leader. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Great. So Engineer Sharp, you can continue.
Thank you very much, Engineer Sunday. Right, now I have about 3 more people who put up their hands for questions. So if they can make it brief, so that we can manage our time properly. So I have here Sunday Obehon. Sunday Obehon, if you mute yourself and just put forward your question.
Thanks, Dr. Harrison. Really quite interesting, and I think you did define leadership properly to me. I've always tried to define leadership a bit different from boss. Correct me if I'm wrong. I always look at, based on your chart, I've always looked at a leader as someone with 9 9, and a boss as someone with 1 9. And then based on your taxonomy of skills, I look at, to me, a leader is one who has a 4, and a boss, no matter whether he has a 3, if he or she does not have the interpersonal skill, I call that person a boss. Am I wrong?
Thank you very much, Sunday, for that. I saw this question coming because this is a very strong argument in the field of leadership. What we say is leadership versus management. So that's the title. Because a lot of people say that is it the same thing to be a leader and a manager? What's the difference between management and leadership? So for us, of course, many people believe that the managers are the ones that do the hard part of the activity. So they're the ones that plan, they're the ones that organize, they're the ones that coordinate, they're the ones that do those difficult parts. While some people believe the leaders are the ones that strategize, they're the ones that envision. So for some people, they believe that they are different. Leadership and management is different. For some people, they believe that they are the same in the sense that you can't be a leader if you don't know how to manage. And this is where I fall in. This is school of thought I fall into. I believe, okay, yes, although you can view management in the difficult way, like you try to say, the 1-9 approach, those are the difficult way. I don't really care about people. But look at today's world. If you're a manager and you don't have interpersonal skills, you will not be able to manage people properly. So management, for a manager, you should also know how to lead. So if leadership is about being able to envision, strategize, it's so important now that there has been there's not a law in both of them, in both fields, that says clearly that you need to also know how to lead for you to be a great manager. Don't forget, most of the people that we call managers, think of them, Richard Branson is called a manager, but really you consider him to be a leader because they use the leadership skill sets. In the same way, if you're a leader and you don't know how to manage, then you only be a daydreamer. Because at the end, you only be telling people, this is the vision, this is what we're going to do. But you also need to make strong decisions. You also need to be able to plan, organize. So you can see that there is no wrong answer for that perception. But for me, it's clear and it's so important. And that's why leadership is being promoted, that managers should be able to lead as well. You shouldn't just say a manager should just be difficult and be tough, because that's the reason why most people don't like their jobs. But when you have a manager that is really empathetic, that is thinking about other people, that is also a soft person. So at the end, the ideal manager is a 9-9 because the person is both a leader and a manager.
Thanks.
So that's the way we tend to view it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Harrison. Now, can I just say,
yeah,
please,
if you don't mind, just a minute. I think Mr. Ajay Kumar Goel is, I think that's connecting with us from India. I think you are raising your hands to ask question. Do you mind to unmute yourself, please? Mr. Kumar.
Hello.
Okay, go on then.
The question, my name is Ajay Kumar Goel. I am speaking from Gurgaon, Delhi, India. And I am a mentor and advisor to startups. And I am from BITS Pilani. I have done my engineering and MBA, and to startups, NGO, and SME sector. Now, the question is, you very correctly answered my earlier question of technique and timing. Another aspect is, what percentage points will you give to destiny and to the luck factor, that is the sixth sense and the gut feeling of the leader? You see, be it a corporate or in politics, my experience, which I have about 40 years of which I command, my experience is that the sixth sense and the gut feeling is very important, very pertinent in every decision, irrespective of the analytical skills and other skills of the leader. And second aspect is that I would like your views on this, Harrison and the team. And surely, would you like to tell me about the luck factor? Because as per my equations which I have developed, S is that success of a leader is equal to the efforts multiplied by luck within bracket destiny. Be it a tendering, one can give 100 of tenders, but you get only 1 or 2. So it depends. And another thing is that lubrication factor is very important in this equation. Now, S is relative, efforts, E is relative, destiny, D or luck is relative. They are three things with three elements which are relative to each other, and they are relative with respect to themselves. So the equation stands like this. Like if your efforts are 1, but your destiny or the luck factor is 10, you still get 6. You still get 10. Even otherwise, if your efforts are 10 and destiny is 1, you get still 10. So success is defined that way. Can you please throw some light on this?
Thank you.
From leaders' perspective? I hope you agree with me.
Definitely. Thanks very much, Dr. AJ, for that. I think I would try and address them one after the other. I think one of the things you said, and it's very important, is intuition. And that falls into my framework, although it's not stated clearly in the framework. But it's very important that leaders are intuitive. And for you to be intuitive in the first place, because that's where it falls into idea generation. Most people that generate ideas are the ones that are intuitive in the first place. So you trust your intuitions. So most leaders that succeed, they're very intuitive. They do something and they're okay. They trust they trust the way they do. It comes into their minds and they do it. And most of the time they get it right. And we can't generate great ideas if you're not intuitive. You can't identify opportunities if you're not intuitive as well. So intuition is something that is important. But some people might say that it's not a skill. Some people might say it's a trait.
Harrison, one more thing. What of the integrity and the credibility of the leader itself?
Exactly. So that's why most of the time, I'm looking at the skill sets. Integrity is important in that sense. You need to have integrity. But most people will say that integrity is also a characteristic, it's also a trait. So I'm just giving you the leadership skills that you need. But I agree that it's very important for you to have integrity. People would not be motivated. And that was why I was saying from the beginning, role modeling. And role modeling falls into integrity, because if you say you do this, then you have to show people that you do it. So those people that have integrity are the ones that are able to model what they display. So if you say, I'm going to do this, then you show it in your behavior. If you say the sky is blue, people need to believe that the sky is blue. If you say yes, people need to believe that yes is yes. And that is role modeling. Role modeling is clear. It falls down into integrity as well. And that's one of the problems that we have with our leaders. Most of them are not the ideal role models. Most of them don't have the integrity that we tend to crave for. And integrity, of course, is so important, especially with things like ethical leadership. But to answer your question before I allow Dr. Sharp to continue, you spoke about luck, serendipity. Yes, I agree. There is always a luck factor in leadership most of the time, especially when you identify opportunities. Most of the time, the opportunities are what's called eureka that happens. It's just that eureka phenomenon. So sometimes it's not as if you have thought about it. It just comes to you. But when those opportunities come, when luck comes, you should be able to exploit the luck. So it's about being ready to exploit the opportunity when it comes. So serendipity, or what we call serendipity, or what you're calling luck, is important in leadership. But it's not just about being lucky, because I've seen people that have won lotteries, but at the end they didn't do anything with it. They even became worse than they were before. So in leadership, you should be able to exploit serendipity when luck comes. But of course, there's always a level of luck in life as well.
Thank you very much. So, thank you. Right. In the absence of, we have two more people who put up their hands, and I will just get Simon Odio. Simon Odio, if you're still there, please unmute yourself, and then we take from Engineer Alex Ifaguzi and Simon Odio. Two of you, we just need to manage our time to take your questions. If Simon is there, please.
I am Simon. My question and the answer was asking of the precision on YouTube that we answered.
Okay.
Engineer Alex Ifagwazi. Engineer Alex Ifagwazi, please.
Yes, Engineer Alex Ifagwazi is the branch chairman of Nigerian Society of Engineers in Nnewi branch.
Great.
Okay.
I just want to thank the presenter. We have learned a lot. As he is the branch chairman of NSC Nnewi branch, I learned a lot, especially when it comes to influence, you know, with the people I leading. So I thank, just a comment, just want to thank you people, Scotland people, for organizing such a great lecture. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Now, if you want to fill in your question, please, it's good you put your name forward in your signing in details. Don't leave it at device name, because if you leave it at device name, I have one person putting up hands for question here. It's just 2728. I wouldn't make any much. We wouldn't make any much meaning from that. So it would be good if you come in with your real name instead of the device name. So in the, hold on, just to see if that's been corrected. I'm not sure if Engineer Rose Madaki still have a question, and then if I think she been acknowledged. If not, then we can have Alaribe Chinwe Alaribe.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to ask this question, and thank you, Dr. Christian. If you are to lead, but you have somebody like a godfather leader or a godmother leader, how can you lead effectively?
Your line is,
you understand
your line is somehow poor, Chinwe. Your line is a little bit poor, so please speak slowly.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
If you can turn on your camera.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but it's coming a little bit metallic. If you switch your camera on, we can also. Okay, if you switch, that would be better if we have your camera on. And
okay,
your video,
I am asking if you are leading, if you are a leader, and you have like a godmother or a godfather at the background, how can you lead effectively if you really don't want to go in the person's way?
Okay. Your question was Dr. Harrison.
Okay, thank you. I think I got the question from her as well. I think thanks for the question. I think it's a very common phenomenon whereby you become a leader, especially in political leadership, in the sense that you have a godfather, you have a godmother, and you're now forced. You want to do the right thing, but you can't do the right thing because you have people that you need to, in quotes, settle. So one of the things you need to do is, and that's what we look at ethical leadership, isn't it? Because at the end, you need to ask yourself, who is more important? Are the people you're serving more important, or is it the godfather or the godmother, in quotes, that is more important? And of course, the answer is clear. The people are more important. And if the people are more important, then you should be able to communicate to the godfather or the godmother that this is the way I want to lead. The people are the reason why I took that post in the first place. So that's why most of the time there's always a problem between the godfather and the godson, in quote, in politics. And most of the time, unfortunately, the godfather might win the battle, and sometimes the person might have to leave. Although it's not the first time we have seen people leave positions whereby they felt, I'm not doing what I want to do. I'm not being able to communicate change. I'm not being able to impact people. So because of that, I'm going to leave. So the worst case scenario, if you feel that the godfather or the godmother is not listening to you and you're not able to influence the change, or you're not able to be the change that you want to be, then you have to leave with your heads high. And that's what you leave that position, because at the end, integrity is very important. But as a good leader, like I said, it's all about influencing people, and that's the tactic. So you should be able to communicate to the godfather or godmother, make them understand why you're doing what you're doing, and don't sign bonds that you know that will be impossible. Before you go into leadership positions, don't get into a mess whereby you know that you cannot impact change. Just imagine if you want to become a governor and you sign a bond with the godfather, and he tells you he's gonna assign all your commissioners, he will assign all your everybody that you're going to work with. Of course, you're not going to have the power to do anything you want to do. So right from the beginning, you should be able to know the kind of contract you sign before you get in. But the answer to this is you need to be able to communicate to the godfather or the godmother, make them know what you stand for, and being able to influence them. And that's what's important in leadership.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure how much time we still have remaining. I'll let the president to legislate on that, but I've got 2 more questions. Do we go ahead on that with them?
Yeah, I think we can just take the 2 questions very quickly. We'll be rounding up at 7:30. At exactly 7:30, we'll be closing. So let's just have the 2 questions quickly.
Okay, we have Fado Unam and Fola Soboyejo. Sorry if I have not pronounced your name with the correct center. So Fado Unam, go first.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the webinar and the lecture. It was interesting. My question, I want to frame it first of all straightforward. What's the place of accountability in leadership, and how do we, particularly the NSC, how do we hold accountable engineers are part of the society and are holding sort of positions in government or leadership positions in all these spaces, and we still find either corruption or things aren't done properly. So what's the base of accountability, and how do we hold members of the society who are in leadership accountable? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. I think it's something that it's so important because of now we're looking at it. There are 2 ways to look at leadership. First is followership, first is leadership. So I think your question is more of the followership part of it, isn't it? So now as followers, how do we hold our leaders accountable in the first place? So accountability is so important. One of the things that in leadership, leaders need to be accountable. That's important. For you to be a great leader, you need to take responsibility. And that's why in political leadership, you always have opposition. Unfortunately, most of the opposition doesn't really know what they stand for. The opposition is created to make them what? Accountable. So that is the reason for the opposition in the first place, to hold them accountable for the decisions that they make. Look at what's happening with the pandemic. Ideally, our job or the job of the opposition is to hold the government to account. Whether in Nigeria, whether in Scotland, whether in any part of the world, is to hold them into account. So as followers, it is our responsibility to speak out. That's the answer. Speak out when you think things are not going right. Don't be afraid to speak. Some leaders listen, and that's why I spoke about listening, because at the end, if every effective leader wants to listen, they're not going to hold you. They won't take it. Of course, some people might take it personal. Of course, there might be personal vendetta, but at the end, it's always important when you speak out, and that is how you hold your leaders accountable. If they promise, in 5 years' time, we're going to change this, we're going to change that, then okay, you promised that this is 100 days in office, you've not done anything. So most of the time, they don't know. But when you speak out, of course, this will be important. You spoke about corruption. Corruption is something that goes beyond, it's everywhere in every part of the world. Some leaders are usually corrupt. But how do we hold them accountable? Is also by speaking out. There are laws in place to ensure that corrupt people are held culpable for the kind of things that they do. But at the end, one thing is for sure, followers will need to do their job. And for you to be a good follower, I always tell people, you also need to know about leadership. So even if you don't want to be in the helm of affairs, leaders, people that are great followers, are also the ones that know about leadership. So just imagine, even if you don't aspire to become the leader of the country, you know these are the skills that are required. So you start to think about leadership from that perspective. But at the end, leaders need to be responsible, leaders need to be accountable, and it's our job as followers to hold them accountable, especially when they go wrong.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. So just
a quick one, Engineer Sharp. I think the question is also related to the holding the end of the NSC executive accountable to whatever they are doing. And since we have our executive secretary on the line, if Dr. Okopi wants to add 1 or 2 things to your comment. Can we, Dr. Okopi, can you unmute yourself, sir?
Yeah, sorry, I was off a little bit when that I just came back. So I don't know precisely what the comment was.
It was a question about how to hold NSC leaders responsible for how to hold them accountable if they go wrong?
Accountable, yeah.
For instance.
Oh yes, of course. I mean, at every level of leadership, I mean, NSC inclusive, leaders must be ready to be held accountable. They must be ready to be held accountable. And for us to effectively do that, we'll have to put in place, we need to put in place schemes that will check people. We need to work with guidelines. We need to work with rules and regulations.
So for instance, for the NSC, are there such rules, regulations, guidelines, or processes for the NSC leaders?
Yes.
I think if you can unmute yourself, Engineer Kopi. Okay.
I can rescue it from here.
For leadership, of course, there are rules. We have templates for doing the things that we do. Now, for instance, if as the executive secretary in charge of the secretariat, I am expected to run the secretariat with processes and procedures. Now, the executive committee is there to check what I do.
It is important that
if I violate procedures and processes for administering the secretariat, the ESCO can come into question. And that's what I mean. So for NSC, we are also guided by the memorandum of articles of association with all the rules and articles. If the president, for instance, violates the provisions of the MEMAT, he can be sanctioned by the council. So at every level of the leadership of NSC, there are also checks and balances. Of course, sometimes these are not put in proper perspectives, but these are things that we must do as leaders of the society. The higher authorities must question what lower authorities do. And this is the only way we can hold leadership accountable for whatever they do.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, Engineer Dr. Kopi.
Thank you. The final question for the evening will go to Fola Soboyejo. Fola Soboyejo, if you please.
Thank you so much, Christian, for what you condensed in about an hour, what might be like 3 months training on leadership. Thank you so much. My little contribution on the matter of delegation is feedback and threshold of intervention. So that when you set the person you have trained, you have given them all the guidance, and then you let them go so that they can use their ideas to develop the organization or the goal, then they should be giving you feedback. You'll be looking at feedback. Dangote has about maybe 7 cement company operations in different parts of the continent. And he looks at the reports. He knows when to call the CEO to say, okay, give account for this one. So the threshold will be determined when you will now go back and be involved to solve problems. The best part of this webinar that I've enjoyed is the last stage. Christian said the stage for us to be provoked, and I'm happy at the response on ethics, on integrity, on intuition. I will also add the word attitude, but I will also get his indulgence to add emotional intelligence. We make the mistake when we are in an organization not to be able to distinguish between technical excellence and political leadership of the organization. Look at the Nigerian structure. We have people from different backgrounds and so forth. Even professional associations, they zone leadership. But because something is still wrong in the DNA, look at what is happening to the Nigerian Bar Association. Their leadership contest in the last month is not conclusive. Look at what happened, the southeast zone of the Medical Association. Togri was alleged, people not allowed to vote was alleged. So when people are thinking of restructuring, we need to restructure our minds. And as engineers, with the opportunity of professional development that we're having like this, that personal management, that self-management component is very, very important. When you are in an organization, you get to the position of director. Now you want to be PAMSEC. There is a measure of political content in the appointment of the permanent secretary. You get to deputy managing director of NEPA of something. Yes, we want the head to be, to be an engineer. But from all the attributes that you have pointed out, the skills you have pointed out, you see that technical competence is just one of them.
Yes.
So we should be tolerant of these changes and dynamics in a country as diverse as Nigeria. If you get frustrated, like I was frustrated in one of the oil companies, the primary oil companies in the country, when nationalization was done, you leave the organization. That is where emotional intelligence comes. You respect the structure of the country, you respect the politicking, you recognize it at least. Then you can be a consultant to the company and even be richer. You'll be able to offer skills and service that they will now, because they knew you were good, but they prevented you from becoming managing director. Then you step out, be a consultant, you're able to serve more in a wider horizon.
Thank you very much.
So we should be conscious of emotional intelligence. And I know that in your personal development subset of these skills, I know you will have something to say about that in future. Thank you, Christian.
No problem. Thank you very much for that. I think I totally agree. It's so important because emotional intelligence is very broad, and you would argue that for you to have those interpersonal skills and all that, it's so important that you're emotionally intelligent. And that's why most times people do a lot of training on emotional intelligence in general. And one of the reasons why I didn't mention it as a skill, because to me, it's a broad term, it's a broad phenomenon. It's something that you need to have in the first place for you to have those skills. And anybody that's emotionally intelligent is the kind of person that understands himself or herself. You cannot understand yourself if you're not emotionally intelligent. You can't understand people if you're not emotionally intelligent as well. So it goes beyond having the technical expertise, because that is the problem. Like you rightly pointed out, a lot of people have good IQs, intelligent quotients and all that, but they don't understand people. They don't have that emotional intelligence. And that's why it's so important that you understand others, you understand yourself, you know how to relate with people. And emotional intelligence, of course, is so important. And I totally agree.
Thank you.
To work on that.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Christian Harrison, and all who have contributed in terms of questions and comments. I think Engineer Rose Madaki had her hand up, but it's down now. Okay, thank you so much all for contributing, for the engagement. As we said, the video will be available after now, and you can assess most of the knowledge that has been shared here today. I'll just make very quick announcements and then give the vote of thanks, and the chairman will declare this closed. The first here is just to announce that the Nigerian Society of Engineers NSC London UK branch is hosting another webinar titled Green Energy Revolution. Where does Nigeria really stand? This is holding on the 22nd of August, 2020. And the speaker is Engineer Solomon Iwerioba. That's the flyer. Do well to engage with them. We also have another technical session from the Nigerian Society of Engineers proposed Manchester branch. And this one is on thinking outside the box, technology disruption in a post-COVID West Africa. This is holding on Friday, the 28th of August, 2020. And Professor Ola Uduku is the guest speaker there. And finally, last but of course not the least, if you are a member of the NSC, you should already know by now that registration is now open. Early bird registration is now open for the NSC, the Nigerian Society of Engineers National Engineering Conference and Annual General Meeting, Abuja 2020. So let's take advantage of this window and register through the early bird and participate in this. Hopefully the COVID-19 restrictions will have eased before this time so we can participate actively in these. Right. on behalf of the Pro Tem Scotland branch, if I have the permission of my chairman, Dr. Olusegun Adederon, to give the vote of thanks and then declare this closed.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Emmanuel. To thank everyone on this platform now, people that started with us. And at a point, I think we reached about 128, 127 participants on the platform. Thanks so much, everyone, for taking your time to be with us here now. Special thanks to the NSC Executive President for being with us throughout. And we really appreciate you. We appreciate all the NSC executives. We appreciate people from different parts of the world, India, Nigeria, Canada, America. Thanks for being with us today. And special thanks to all our members in Scotland here for being with us, all your contribution. Thanks so much. Without no further delay, I just want to declare this webinar closed, and hopefully you will hear from us today. If you've not registered to get the certificate or participant, please do it now. Then we'll definitely get back to you. The video will be available on the YouTube or any other channels that we'll send to you. Thanks so much. Have a blessed evening. Bye for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Chairman.
Thank you
Bye.
so much.
Yeah, thank
Very
you.
wonderful.
Thank you. It was
We are
informative.
grateful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Very
Thank
much.
you from
Bye.
Canada.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much. Scotland branch, well done.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
It is a good development. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Engineer
Very interesting
Shehu,
presentation.
Engineer Sharp, well done, everybody. Wonderful. I totally
Thank
enjoyed.
you.
Christian, fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We have to bring you back
Very much.
again. Yeah.
Your broken, Dr. Saliu.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done.
Emmanuel, wonderful.
Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Wonderful
Dr. Emmanuel
presentation.
Saliu.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Some presentations.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
This one, Dr. Emmanuel, we never come.
Thank you for stay from Nigeria. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
This one will be our topic.
Eboluwa.
We never
Thank you.
come here.
Thank you. Bye.
Engineer Rose Madaki, I'm going to get in touch with you.
Good night.
Beautiful.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Olashobo Joy is going to get in touch with Engineer Rose Madaki.
All right. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Beautiful webinar.
Thank you.
Very beautiful webinar. All right. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
I think some people are still in the waiting room to join.
Oh dear.
Engineer Shehu, the way you're sitting there, you look like a president of Nigeria. You look so relaxed, so calm.
Yeah.
I tend to move around, do everything. You're so calm. You're just like Trump. This is how Trump.
It's a good attribute of leadership.
Professor, who have read all those books behind you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And engineer Shehu here with Nigerian NSC badge behind me. On the whole weight of NSC.
Okay, sir.
Imagine some people are still joining.
Too much, you guys are doing wonderful, man.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
sir.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Anyway, I've got to go.
Thanks a
All
lot.
right. Thank you. Thank you for the
Bye.
contribution.
We're just waiting for people to
To exit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny enough, some other people are still joining.
Yeah, that's the funniest thing. I just removed some people just now. So, yeah, they thought we gave them Nigeria time.
Engineer Fiber, this is my junior engineer.
Honestly, the guy wanted to hear the entire presentation too.
He wants to ask questions.
Yeah, he had some questions, but he won't understand. You shouldn't worry.
Thank you so much, Dr. Harrison.
Thank you.
You know what I have done, Chairman? What I've done, I put everybody outside the committee except Dr. Harrison. I put them in the waiting room.
Oh, you did that? Okay, I was wondering how 10 people.
I just cleared everybody to the waiting room.
I was just looking at it.
No, I did. I was the one behind it.
That's
so
brilliant.
they are still there. Up to 8 or 10 people there still waiting.
We can remove them, I think. So they just go. Maybe some people
what
are
I've been doing is I've been removing them.
Yes, that's what I'm doing too.
Yeah, I've just put
Dr. Chris, thank you very much for this wonderful presentation.
Thank you very much for inviting me and Mohammed and everyone, Dr. Lucian, everyone, Sha, Manuel.
The interaction was really great. I think we'll save the chat somewhere. Some people were looking for contacts and things like that. I almost wanted to.
Yeah, I think it's better we stop the video now before we have a chat with Dr. Harrison.
Okay. Like.